Hare Krishna. Jai Saparika Shri Guru Gauranga Sunda Radha Giridhari Jiu Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Jagat Guru Srila Bhakti Sunda Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Kurachura Mani Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Nitya Leela Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Bhagya Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Sivasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Shri Chaitanya Saraswati Acharya Vrinda Ki Jai. Samadvaita Vaishnava Mandali Ki Jai. Kol Kartal Ki Jai. Shri Harinama Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premi Okay. Welcome everyone. Good to see everybody. Saraswati asked me to give an introduction to the Bhagavad-Gītā. So this is our edition of the Bhagavad-Gītā with the commentary of our Guru Maharaj Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Maharaj. There are maybe at least 20 English editions of Bhagavad-Gītā on the market, but I can tell you almost unequivocally that before the Bhagavad-Gītā as it is by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj was published, not one of those editions of the Bhagavad-Gītā made anybody a devotee of Krishna. They were studied by scholars and dissected and so many other things, but not only a commentary written by a devotee of Lord Krishna can explain the meaning of the Bhagavad-Gītā as it is. That's why Srila Prabhupada A.C. Bhaktivedanta called his Gita as it is, meaning not some interpretation of what Krishna's saying, but Krishna says what he means, and he means what he says. There's no need for any interpretation. There's no need for any to try and describe what Krishna is or what Krishna is speaking about as some kind of metaphorical message of spirituality, other than what it is in its original context and its original form. If you're a student of Bhagavad-Gītā, then you're in very good company. Many of the greatest thinkers of the world have studied Bhagavad-Gītā. Einstein studied Bhagavad-Gītā. The American transcendentalists, Emerson, Thoreau, Walt Whitman and others, they studied Bhagavad-Gītā. And of course Mahatma Gandhi always referring to Bhagavad-Gītā. And Einstein said after reading the Gita, all other Western literature seems to be puny and trivial in comparison. It is a great treatise on religious thought, spiritual thought. In fact, almost everyone will be able to find something to identify with in the study of Bhagavad-Gītā. In India, in the 1930s, the anarchist party, started by Aurobindo, they used to carry a Bhagavad-Gītā with them in their pocket, and their justification for their anarchy they found in Bhagavad-Gītā. There's many different schools of thought, philosophy, are found in the Bhagavad-Gītā. But what is actually the central message of Bhagavad-Gītā, difficult to ascertain unless one is actually a devotee of Lord Krishna. So, first we can try to put the Gita into its historical context. A lot of people find a difficulty that the Bhagavad Gita is spoken in the middle of a war. Fratricidal war was taking place in Greater India at that time. In fact, the Bhagavad Gita takes place in the midst of another scripture. The Mahabharata is found in the Bhishma Kanda of the Mahabharata. And literally there was a war between opposing sides of the same family. So we can go back that there were three sons. Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and Vidura. And the oldest was Pandu, but Pandu was cursed that he could never have children of his own, and that if he ever had any, you can say, amorous relationships with his wife, he would immediately die. He was cursed. He was cursed by a sage. He was a warrior, and the warriors they learned their art. Part of learning their art was through hunting. And during a hunting expedition, Pandu shot what he thought was a deer, but the deer turned out to be a sage that was engaged in a relationship with his wife, and had some mystic power, and they'd taken the form of deer. And when Pandu shot the stag with his arrow, the deer transformed again into a human and gave this curse. If ever you try to have sexual relationship with any woman, you will immediately die. So Pandu was the oldest of the three brothers, and he was had two wives, Kunti and Madri. And Kunti, she was given a mantra by a great renowned sage called Durvasa. And Durvasa, when she was a young girl, he gave her this mantra that by meditating on any of the gods, she could summon that god there and have a child with them. So one day, before she was married, she was looking at the sun and thinking how beautiful the sun was, and meditating on the god of the sun, and began to recite this mantra. And before she knew it, the sun god appeared in her room. And he said, you've summoned me, we must have a child. She said, I'm not married, it's not proper, and I'm just a young girl. And then he said, no, it is possible, but without disturbing your virginity, we can have a child. And from her ear, the sun god produced a son, and his name was Karna. Karna means from the ear. And but she was embarrassed that she had a son outside of wedlock, and she was part of the royal family. So they put the baby in a basket and floated the baby down the river, wishing him well. And he was found by a charioteer, and who took the baby home, and they adopted him. He and his wife adopted the baby. But Karna was born because he was the son of the sun, S-U-N, sun god. He was born with natural earrings and natural body armor. And but his origin was unknown to anyone except for Kunti. So anyway, when she was married to Pandu, then Pandu informed her of the curse, that we can never have children in the conventional way, otherwise I will immediately die if I attempt that. And she told him, I have a mantra given to me by Durvasa, where I can summon any god and a child will be produced. So then Pandu said, okay, then summon the Jamaraj or Dharmaraj. Jamaraj is the god of death, the god of death, but he's also considered as one of the 12 Mahajans, that means the authorities on spiritual life. So he's very wise god, and he was summoned, and a son was produced from their union, and that son was Yudhisthira. Yudhisthira, the oldest of the Pandavas. Then again she meditated on Vayu, the god of the wind, Pavan, and he appeared there and gave her a son, Bhima. And Bhima was a great warrior. And then the third time she called, using that mantra, Indra. Indra is the god of heaven, the king of heaven, and controls the elements like the wind, like the rain, and like that. So then, and he gave her a son, Arjuna. Then she said, no, it is not right that I will again call a god to father a child, but you have another wife, Madri, and I'll give her the mantra. But she can only use that mantra once. Okay, then, but she was very clever, and there was the Ashwin Kumar, they're the gods, but twins, they were twins. So she summoned the Ashwin Kumar, and from them 2 sons, Nakula and Sahadev. So these 5 personalities, they were known as the Pandavas, the sons of Pandu. And then while he was spending some time, Pandu, in the forest with his wife Madri, he became overwhelmed by the desire for sexual union with his wife, and even though he knew the curse and believed it, then when they were in that atmosphere and he became overwhelmed by that feeling and was unable to control himself, they began to have sexual intercourse, and immediately he died. So Pandu died. Then what to do? So then they performed the funeral rites, and in those days, you have to remember this was in a different age of mankind. It wasn't in the modern age, because none of these things are possible in today. But in a previous age, this is Dwapara Yuga, in the previous age. Then when the funeral was performed, then Madri wanted to go with her husband, and it was possible, it is known as sati. Then she accompanied her husband on the funeral pyre, and where he went, she went with him. So that also is not possible in this age. And although up until maybe 100 years ago, in India this was still practiced, but it was actually murdering the wife because she could not actually perform sati and go where her husband went. She was just burnt to death alive. But that was stamped out largely by the British during their reign of India, but even up to about 100 years ago, in some places in Orissa, it was still prevalent. And if you've read Jules Verne's Around the World in 80 Days, Phileas Fogg saves an Indian princess from having to go on the funeral pyre, the commit sati. Anyhow, so Kunti remained as the mother of the 5 Pandavas, and then the Mahabharata is their story, if you like. The history of their story. It isn't fantasy. It isn't make believe. It isn't Lord of the Rings. It is actual reality. Just happened in another age, and so now that Pandu was dead, then the next eldest brother was Dhritarashtra, and Dhritarashtra became the king. But Dhritarashtra was blind. From birth he was blind. And his wife was Gandhari. And Gandhari was a very special woman. And just incidentally, today is International Women's Day, so to speak about Gandhari and Kunti and all of these is very good for us. When Gandhari knew that she would marry Dhritarashtra, and that Dhritarashtra was blind, she took a blindfold and wore a blindfold, thinking, I will not be in any way superior to my husband. So if he's blind, I'll also be blind. Of course, in modern days, people think like, that's crazy, right? That's crazy. They'll both be blind. They're like, at least one of them should, be able to see. But as a result of that, she developed great mystic power and was a very extraordinary woman. And she had 100 sons. And the oldest of those sons was called Duryodhan. And Duryodhan, when he was born, there were such inauspicious signs in the atmosphere, blood raining from the sky, and many portentous signs. And the Brahmins, the priests of the king, told him that this boy will be the cause of the destruction of your dynasty, and you should kill him immediately. After his birth, he should be immediately killed to prevent this from happening. But, as is natural, both the father and the mother were immediately attached with their son and could not do that. They couldn't do it. Although they knew, they didn't disbelieve those signs. They knew that it may be true. And, the Brahmins said, for the sake of the kingdom, one boy can be sacrificed. But they could not do that. And Duryodhan grew up to be you can say, arch rival of the Pandavas. He wanted to be the king, although the sons of Pandu were the rightful heirs to the throne. And Duryodhan being the son of Dhritarashtra, but he opposed them. My father's the king, then I'm his first son, I will be the king. Yeah, this kind of rivalry between them. And although they grew up together from childhood to manhood, and they had the same teachers and the same family experience, if you like. There was always this like bitter rivalry between the two sides of the family. And finally, Duryodhana always planning to try and kill the Pandavas, actually. He tried in so many ways to kill them. Then they gave Bhimsena a poison cake to try to kill him. He was poisoned and he fell into a river, and just by, not coincidence, but it just happened that that part of the river was filled with venomous snakes, and when he fell into the river unconscious from after eating the poison cake, the snakes all began to bite him, and it just happened by the will of God, by the will of providence. It just happened that the snake's venom was the antidote to the poison from the cake. So he survived that. And then many other things. They arranged a holiday home for the Pandavas to go to. But while they were there, they burnt it down to try to kill them. The Pandavas had to go into hiding. And had so many occurrences in this way. And finally, when it all came to a head, then Yudhisthira was very wise, like his father, and very philosophical, more like a Brahmin than a warrior, a Kshatriya. And he submitted to Duryodhana and to Dhritarashtra, his father. We don't care about being, the rulers of the world. You can rule. We don't care. Just give us 5 villages, and we'll be one for each brother. We can live there peacefully. We'll be happy with that. And Duryodhana said, "I won't give you enough land to put on the head of a pin." So, and then even Krishna tried to negotiate like a peaceful settlement so that the war wouldn't occur. But finally it was inevitable. It was an inevitable course of events. And finally, before the battle, Duryodhana and Arjuna, they came to see Krishna because they want to know, like in this war, who will Krishna support? So Krishna, he wants to remain neutral, in one sense, neutral. So then he told them, to Duryodhana and to Arjuna, you choose. You can have me, but I will not fight. I will not fight in the war. But you can have me to do some, supporting role on your side, or you can have my army. So Krishna was also a prince, and he was the king of the Jadu dynasty at that time, and he had an army, a very renowned army. And he told them, you can have me, or you can have my army. But if you have me, I'm not going to fight in this battle. Then Arjuna said, I want you, Krishna. And Duryodhana said, I want the army. Like Krishna, what's he going to do? One person. A whole army, that's going to give us a great advantage. And renowned army. So then both were happy. Duryodhana was happy. Yeah, you can have Krishna. He's not even going to fight. So, what's the use of that? I'll have his army. So anyhow, that was the deal that they struck. And Krishna became Arjuna's chariot driver. So that one name of Krishna is Parthasarathi. Partha is Arjuna's name, and Parthasarathi means the chariot driver of Arjuna. So you can see on the cover here the picture of Krishna driving the chariot of Arjuna in the battlefield. And this is where Bhagavad-Gītā begins. So, first of all, it begins with Dhritarashtra at his palace. He's accompanied by Sanjay. Sanjay is the disciple of Vedavyas. Vedavyas, the compiler of the Vedic scripture. So Vedavyas gave some instruction to Sanjay that he was able to see things that, although he wasn't present, you can say he had some kind of a mystical streaming ability, live streaming ability, that he could see all the events that were being carried out on the battlefield. It was in the place which is called Kurukshetra. Dharmakshetra Kurukshetra means a great place where religious sacrifices were previously practiced. Then it begins Dhritarashtra asking Sanjay, tell me, at that place of Kurukshetra, what did my sons and the sons of Pandu do? So this is the first, not first, but this is, from this we can understand that Dhritarashtra also considered his sons different from Pandu's sons, whereas they are actually the same family, but he's making this differentiation between them. My sons and the sons of Pandu, when they came together at Kurukshetra, what did they do? And then Sanjay, by his mystic power, he was able to relate the events of that war to Dhritarashtra. This is an amazing thing to me, that scholars all over the world, they laud the Bhagavad-Gītā as a great philosophical treatise, but no one ever says, wait a minute, this Sanjay, he wasn't even there. What, you're saying that he related all, how is it even possible? Nobody even questions that amongst the scholars. It's accepted because the presentation of the philosophies given by Lord Krishna is so supreme that nobody questions that. That to me is an amazing thing. So I remember, I was like 14 when I started reading the Bhagavad-Gītā. And I had, I won't say a friend, I'll say more an acquaintance. And he always used to tease me, because he had, this was like about 1977 or so. And I was a teenage boy, and I was studying at art college in Hereford, where I was born. And one of my close friends, she was the daughter of the mayor of Hereford. And her and her boyfriend one night they were arrested for possession of marijuana. And her mother was called, she was the mayoress of Hereford, and she was very angry, and she blamed all of the friends. We were a group of friends, so they were going with. So, and she told the chief of police at that place, you raid all their homes first thing early in the morning, and that's what happened. There was a knock on. I was living at home with my mum then. There was a knock on the door about 5 a.m, and in came the police, and they're searching my room to see if I have any marijuana. I didn't, but they're searching. And then one of the police officers, he pulls up my Bhagavad-Gītā from my bookcase, and he says, "What is this book?" I said, "That's Bhagavad-Gītā." And he says, "Wherever we go, this book's there." So, it was true. Anyhow, so my friend, my acquaintance, he also had a Bhagavad-Gītā, and he knew I was like really interested in the philosophy and reading it and everything. But I was just a kid, I was like 14 or 15 years old. And he was a little older than me. We used to sometimes go to his house to listen to some music and things, but he would always tease me. He'd just like open the Bhagavad-Gītā at some place and read something, and he'd say, "Okay, explain that then. Explain what is being said here." And I'm like, "I don't know what it means." So I was reading it, and I didn't really understand it at all at that time. Especially the first chapter. The first chapter, I think it's almost like a test to see if you're sincere enough to go on. Because the first chapter is called Observing the Armies. And it's also called Arjuna, the dejection of Arjuna, because Arjuna reveals to Krishna how he's feeling. So, but most of it starts with Arjuna saying to Krishna, "Please take my chariot between the two armies. I want to see who's here that wants to fight." And so Krishna drives the chariot between the two armies, and then they start describing all of the people that are there for the battle, and it's just a list of names, Sanskrit names that you can't even pronounce. I couldn't even pronounce, and like pages and pages of these names of the warriors that are there on the opposing sides. And when I was reading that, I was just thinking, I haven't got a clue what's going on here. I just this is just like can't understand anything, And then I came across a verse where it says, "And who studies this sacred conversation between Krishna and Arjuna?" Krishna saying, "He worships me by his intelligence." And that appealed to me. I thought, oh, okay, this is good. I'm going to carry on reading it. So then, after describing all the different warriors that are there with all their different names, and one of the names I liked very much, Dristajumna, he's one of the warriors there. Dristajumna means the fireborn. And I thought, that's fantastic. What a fantastic name, the fireborn. Anyway, then all these names, and then Arjuna says he's looking at the members of the opposing army who are all lined up there, and he sees his teacher there, Dronacharya. He sees his uncle Dhritarashtra. He sees, well, not Dhritarashtra wasn't there, but his cousins, they're all there. The Kauravas, they're all there, and their grandfather Bhishma, he's the grandsire of the dynasty, and all these people there, and they've all come because they're obligated to fight on behalf of the king. That whether they want to do that or not, their duty is to fight in the king's army. So they're there opposing the Pandavas. And when Arjuna sees that, he becomes overwhelmed with emotion, and he's like says to Krishna, like, "Okay, so if we engage in this war, what will be the benefit? Even if we win, what will be the benefit of that? Because all the people that we'd like to enjoy the kingdom with, they'll all be dead. So what's the good of that?" Then he says, just all this killing, it can't be good. I think it would be better if I go to the forest and just live by begging would be better than, to kill my relatives and, in this war. And he gives so many good arguments about why he shouldn't fight. But then Krishna says to him, Arjun, although you seem to be speaking learned words, you are actually grieving for that which is not worthy of grief. You're lamenting for that which is not worthy of grief. Because their death is already ordained by me. It's already happening. And I want you to be my instrument. And you're a warrior. And your nature is that you should fight. And then Krishna says, that blessed are those warriors who die on the battlefield for a righteous cause. The gateway to heaven is open to them. And this is how the first chapter ends, more or less, is that Arjuna, he's carrying his bow. His bow's famous. The Gandiva, his bow's called the Gandiva, and he drops his bow and he tells Krishna, "Oh, Rishikesh, I can't fight. I will not fight." And then Krishna begins to counsel him. So, and this is where the Bhagavad-Gītā begins. So then in the second chapter, Krishna explains the nature of the soul to Arjuna. For the soul there is never birth nor death, nor having once been does he ever cease to be. He's unborn, he's eternal, he's not slain when the body is slain. And many things. This is the second chapter. And then Krishna begins to explain the nature of the soul and the paths of yoga, successively leading up to Bhakti yoga, the yoga of devotion. In the fourth chapter, Krishna tells Arjuna how to practice spiritual life. And what we need to understand essentially is that Arjuna is our proxy in this book. Although he's Krishna's friend, he surrenders to Krishna, and Krishna in effect is his guru, and he's the disciple. And so Krishna teaches him, but Arjuna represents us, so that all the questions that Arjuna asks and all the answers, they're all relevant to us. He represents us in this conversation. So in the fourth chapter, Krishna tells Arjuna, Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekyanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshana. He says, try to understand the truth by approaching a spiritual master. And when you approach a spiritual master, you should have these three qualities. Pranipat. Pranipat means exclusive regard. You should have exclusive regard for your teacher. That means not like, we're studying Bhagavad-Gītā today, tomorrow maybe we're studying Zen Buddhism, or the next day we're studying this or that. No, Pranipat means, no, I've come to you and I want to hear from you exclusively the truth. And Pariprashna. Pariprashna means with proper inquiry, relevant inquiry. So that means not just like curiosity, trying to satisfy our curiosity, but trying to understand what is a proper inquiry for a disciple to a spiritual master. Like, in other words, where am I now? What is my position now? And where is it that I want to go? What do I want to achieve? And so our question should be in this regard. Once, when we were with our guru in Navadvip in India, one of our god brothers, he asked Guru Maharaj a question. Could you please explain the 10 subject matters discussed in Śrimad Bhagavatam. Śrimad Bhagavatam is, you can say, like the postgraduate text following from Bhagavad-Gītā. And Guru Maharaj's reply to him was, first you should learn what is an appropriate question to ask your spiritual master. I don't consider that to be an appropriate question from you. Maybe it's an appropriate question for somebody, but not him. You know, he said, like, in other words, how will you benefit if I explain that to you from where you are now? You know, then what's appropriate for you is like to analyze your condition now and then how to go from there upwards. In the Vedanta Sutra it says, you know, the prayer says, please take me from darkness to light. Please guide me from ignorance to knowledge. And please show me the way from suffering to happiness. So in this way, this should be the nature of our inquiry, as appropriate to us. So Krishna says this to Arjuna, pranipat pariprashna, exclusive regard, relevant inquiry, and sevaya. Sevaya means service. Why service? Because our goal is to enter into the plane, spiritual plane of reality. And the spiritual plane is a serviceful plane. There you can't go as an explorer or as an exploiter. You can only go there as a servant. So then you have to develop that service attitude between the guru and the disciple. Then, tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnayana sevaya upadekyanti te jnanam. Upadeksha means instruction. Hear his instruction. Te jnanam, that knowledge, spiritual knowledge. Jnaninas tattva darshana. He can enlighten you because he is already connected with that spiritual reality. He can show you that because he's already there, and he can reveal that to you if you come in the proper way, with the proper attitude. So then somebody might say, well, why is Krishna saying that to Arjuna? Because he's directly Arjuna's guru, isn't it? Krishna's already directly. So why is he now saying, like, find a spiritual master and try to surrender to him and with these things? Because it's not redundant. He's instructing Arjuna, or as I mentioned before, us, that this is the proper method for attaining spiritual knowledge, by approaching a spiritual master or a guru. And we don't just mean, you know, like, we know that there's many people make a big business out of being a guru, right? You know, you can become my disciple and give me all your money and I'll give you a secret mantra or whatever it is, you know, I can tell you all these things. But that doesn't mean that because there's so many, you know, charlatan fakers out there, that doesn't mean that mostly because everybody's wearing some cheap, you know, what do they call that? Like costume jewelry. That doesn't mean that there isn't real jewels, isn't it? It's not that just because everybody wears that's what it is. All jewels are just fake. No, there are real jewels there. So in the same way, because, you know, the guru business has got a bad name, that doesn't mean, therefore, that there aren't any genuine gurus. Guru means where we are trying to reach for knowledge of the divine, and the divine, the infinite Supreme Personality of Krishna, is trying to extend himself to us. We're reaching up, he's coming down to us. Where those two meet, that's called guru. That principle is called guru. And guru usually means a person. There is Chaita Guru, the Guru in the heart, that lives there all the time, the Lord in the heart. But at present, because we are not enlightened, then we mistake our mind and our heart as being the same thing. So that then the communication of the Chaita Guru isn't always reliable to us. So, but when Krishna sees that we are sincere in our attempt to connect with him, then he sends his devotee to us as what's known as the Mahanta Guru. The Mahanta Guru means who comes to us as a person. So then, but we are told that we should be cautious when seeking for a guru, because there are many charlatan gurus, as I mentioned before, as I'm sure you know. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj, our Gurudev, he would say, nobody can deceive you unless you're in the market to be deceived. And then this is one of the human frailties, is that we want some like cheap, quick fix. And someone give us the something cheap, something that flatters us and tells us, like, because you're worth it. That's the that's the advertising shloka, isn't it? Because you're worth it. You are worth it, and you are this and you are that, and flatter your ego, and you can give me some money, and I'll be your guru. But actually, if we are sincere, then we can never be deceived. Sincerity is always supreme. Sincerity is always victorious. And so someone may say, well, I don't think I'm very sincere. And there's actually somebody asked our Guru Maharaj, how can I be sincere? And I don't know what they were expecting, like some magic formula or something, but Guru Maharaj's reply was, just by being sincere. Either you are or you aren't, But he said, but sincerity is one of the qualities of the soul. It's part of who you actually are in your deepest identification. That sincerity is innate within you. But we are prone to be deceived by others. So then we should be also cautious and on our guard against that. I remember when I was first began, searching after spiritual life, and I was at school, and my English teacher, she understood that I was interested in spiritual thought. So she gave me 3 books as a gift. The first book was called Zen Bones, Zen Flesh by Alan Watts. And the second book was called Be Here Now by Baba Ram Das. I really liked that book. Subtitle, A Cookbook for a Spiritual Life. There weren't any recipes in it. But that was a really good book, I thought. And the third book was Sri Ishopanishad by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. So then she gave me these books, and then after I was reading that Ishopanishad by Srila Prabhupada, like on every page I was finding something that like chimed with me internally. Yeah, that's right, that's true, that's, like something that intuitively I recognize as being true. And I remember being very excited about that, and I went back to my teacher and I said to her, oh, that book you gave me, it's like it's got all the answers, everything's there. And she said, no, you should be careful of anything that, purports to have all the answers. You should be very careful about that. And of course she's not wrong. She wasn't wrong. We should be sure about everything. But as I mentioned before, just because, generally we find all kinds of misleading information, that doesn't mean that there isn't any absolute truth. There is. It's just like our Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, who's in that picture there. He used to say to us that all the time, that spiritual reality is all around us all the time. And he'd say, just like the radio waves. So like now, that broadcast all around us, imperceptible to our ears, the radio stations, right, all over. You just need to have a receiver tune into it, and you can hear it. But maybe a couple of 100 years ago, if you told somebody that, they'd think you were crazy, wouldn't they? So similarly, the spiritual truth is all around us all the time. The revelation of the truth, it's there all the time. Our Gurudev would say, you just have to make yourself a proper receiver for that. A proper receiver. Then those truths will flow into you. You'll recognize them. You'll understand them. It's like that part of you, which is the Chaita Guru, will help you recognize what is the truth when you come in connection with it. It's undeniable. And when you know that, intuitively you know it. You may not be able to explain it. Go on then, explain what it says there. What does it mean? You may not be able to, but intuitively it chimes with something within you, deep within you. And if you study the Bhagavad-Gītā, you'll find that truth is there in so many examples, and ever progressing. There's 18 chapters in Bhagavad-Gītā. And in the final chapter, Krishna says to Arjuna, Sarva dharmam purityajya mamekam sharanam braja aham tam sarva papebhyo mokshayishami ma sucha. He says to Arjuna, so all these things that I've taught you so far, about spirituality, about religion, about yoga, about all these things, now I say to you, forget all of that. Sarva dharman, that means all these dharmas that I've instructed you on, you can leave all those if you just surrender to me. Krishna is, in the Bhagavad-Gītā, Krishna is very straightforward in his proclamation that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and everything emanates from me. Everything comes from me. I am the cause of everything. Everything is in me, but nothing is in me. And although that is true, I'm friendly to you all. I'm your friend. That you must remember. So then he says, so if you surrender to me, forget everything that you think is your dharma, your religion, your practice, your everything, sarva dharmam, and surrender to me, sharanam braja. And braja means Vrindavan. Now Krishna says, if you surrender to me, you will come to me in Vrindavan, my supreme spiritual abode. Aham tam sarva papebhyo. And don't worry that if you think that what your obligations in this world, that if you leave them, that sin will overcome you. If you think that, don't worry about that, because I will absolve you of any of that. And you will come to me. No, don't have any fear. Just surrender to me. And then he says, it is my favorite verse in Bhagavad-Gītā. And it's almost the same verse he says in the 9th chapter also. But this is slightly different, but the meaning is the same. Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskura mami vaishyasi satyam te pratijani priyoshime. That means manmana. Mana means your mind or your consciousness and your heart. Give your heart to me. Manmana bhav. Bhav means your feeling of your heart. Become my devotee. Bow down to me, and you will come to me. Mami vaishyasi satyam te. I'm telling you the truth, Arjuna. If you can't believe anyone in this world, you can believe me. And I am telling you this because you are priyoshime. That means because you're dear to me. I'm telling you this because you're very dear to me. And again, if we remember that Arjuna is us, he's our representative. So Krishna is not just saying to Arjuna, you're my dear friend, you're very dear to me. But he's saying to all of us, you are dear to me. And you can come to me and be with me eternally. And you can say, this is the final teaching of Bhagavad-Gītā. Right at the end of everything, then he says to Arjuna, okay, so now I've told you everything. Now you decide what you're going to do. It's up to you now. You decide. Are you going to fight? Are you going to do your duty? Are you going to surrender to me? But it's up to you. I'm not going to force you to do anything. You decide. And then Arjuna, he fights the battle. And it ends with Sanjay saying to Dhritarashtra, wherever Krishna and Arjuna are, there must always be all auspiciousness and supreme victory, wherever they are. This is like striking a thunderbolt to Dhritarashtra's heart. He's basically saying, if Krishna and Arjuna are there, then they don't stand a chance. Your sons, I'm afraid they don't stand a chance. Although everything was on their side of the Kauravas' army. It was vastly superior to they even had Krishna's army with them, fighting against the Pandavas. Vastly outnumbered and superior in every way. But the deciding factor was, Krishna was on the side of the Pandavas. And so the Pandavas eventually were victorious in that battle. And it could not be any other way. After the battle, you can say, more or less it was like carnage. There was no survivors. More than the First World War and the Second World War, all the deaths in there, all put together, was more than that. And we find in Mahabharata, like almost all of the nations of the world came to take part in that battle. Even European nations, they're mentioned there. And everyone was finished. Only the 5 brothers survived, basically, in the end. And then surveying the battlefield after, when everything was finished, one Brahmin there, his name was Uttanka, and he, seeing all the mothers and wives all weeping that their husbands and their sons were all dead, and then he came in front of Krishna and he said to Krishna, oh, you're responsible for this. You could have made it some other way. I know who you are. You could have done it in a different way. But all of this, of course, this was one of the purposes of that war, was to remove the burden of the earth. There's so many, you can say, unwanted human beings on the earth at that time. Maybe like today, I don't know. But, then that was one of the reasons, you can say, for that. But this Uttanka said, you could have done it in another way. So much suffering, so many mothers lost their sons, so many wives lost their husbands. And he says, no, so I'm going to curse you now, Krishna. I'm going to throw a curse on you. And the Brahmins, they have some power. It's called Brahma Tejas. And they can throw that curse by snapping their sacred thread and throwing the curse on that person. Then Krishna said, yes, Brahman, you have developed so much power through so much austerity and spiritual practice and everything. But I'm just telling you now, if you throw that to me as a curse, it can't touch me, because I'm existing in another plane. I don't exist in this mundane world. I'm existing in the Adhoksaja plane, the plane of pure spirituality, and I'm showing myself here in this world. So all of that power that you've gained with so much trouble throughout your life, and when you throw it at me, it'll all be gone, and it won't even touch me. This is Krishna's position. He is Adhoksaja. He is transcendental to this world, and come to teach Bhagavad-Gītā to the people. But he is not affected in any way by the comings and goings of this world. Rather, he is, you can say, removed from that, an observer of that. This is Krishna's position. But in the Gita, he has given us so much valuable information and methodology to reach him. And the ideal preacher of Bhagavad-Gītā is Sri Chaitanya Dev, who, the incarnation of Krishna, who appeared 500 years ago in India. And he taught the process of Nama Sankirtan. In each age there's a different method of self-realization, and in this age that is Nama Sankirtan, or the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Mahaprabhu Chaitanya Dev, he came to teach that, and he gave us a clue, an instruction. If you want to be able to chant the name of Krishna perfectly, then you have to practice humility, tolerance, and giving honor to others, and not expect any honor or respect for yourself. Trinadapi sunichena tarariva suhishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya shadahari. Who can chant the name of Krishna purely? They must be humble like the grass. So grass is the most humble thing. When you tread on it, it doesn't push back. And tolerant like a tree. You know, people carve their name in the tree doesn't protest. People cut the tree down, the tree doesn't protest. It still gives its shelter, gives its fruits, and so on to everybody. So this example has been given. Tolerant like a tree, and able to give proper honor to everybody, respect and honor to everyone. Everyone is part and parcel of Krishna. The divine is living in every one of us. Then we must respect that and show proper respect there. But at the same time, not expecting any honor or respect for ourselves. If you can practice that and move in the world with that as your guiding light, if you like, in your life, as you move in and live in this world, you must make spiritual practice, must make spiritual progress, and you must be able to chant the name of Krishna constantly. Whether you're awake, whether you're asleep, whether you're eating, whether you're working, whatever you're doing, the name of Krishna will always be in your consciousness. Loudly you may chant, or in your mind you may chant, but that will go on. And that will purify us, and that will give us our desired goal of life, our self-realization, our spiritual realization. Harinam Sankirtan, that is the process for becoming enlightened in this age of Kali, which is considered to be an age of faults, full of faults, an ocean of faults. But one good thing is that simply by chanting the names of Krishna and in congregation, Sankirtan, then that vibration, that spiritual vibration can pierce the coverings of the universe and touch the lotus feet of God, touch the lotus feet of Krishna. It is so powerful, the names of Krishna. This is taught to us by Sri Chaitanya Dev and his followers, who are the actual followers and teachers of Śrimad Bhagavad-Gītā. So this is our introduction for today. I hope it's been enlightening, I'm sure. And say, when you study, if you're studying Bhagavad-Gītā, keep a notebook with you, because you must have some question coming when you read something. Can't just understand everything. Write down those questions and then ask the devotees, what does this mean? Because you can bet your life that you're not the first person to have that question. Those questions have been asked 1,000,000 times and answered 1,000,000 times. So this is how we progress in our study of Bhagavad-Gītā. Try and understand that through those who are already practicing that. And you must be benefited in your life. Śrimad Bhagavad-Gītā ki jai, jai Shri Krishna Arjuna ki jai, jai Bhagavan Shri Krishna Chandra ki jai, jai Shri Harinama Sankirtan ki jai, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Srila Bhakti Rakak Srila Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Samadvaita Vaishnava Mandali ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari